Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TDWI webinar program. I'm Andrew Miller, and I'll be your moderator. For today's program, we're going to talk about delivering AI, ML, and BI into new data transformation use cases. And our sponsor today is Impetus. For our presentations today, we'll hear first from James Kabilas with TDWI. After Jim speaks, we'll hear from Steve Maloney with AWS and Dr. Ravi Shankar Rao Balabjosula with Impetus. Apologies. But before I turn over our time to our speakers, I'd like to go over a few basics. Today's webinar will be about an hour long, and at the end of their presentations, our speakers will host a question and answer period. If at any time during these presentations you'd like to submit a question, just use the Ask a Question area on your screen to type in your questions. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, click on the help area located below the slide window, and you'll receive technical assistance. And if you'd like to discuss this webinar on Twitter with fellow attendees, just include the hashtag TDWI in your tweets. Finally, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, use the click here for a PDF line there in the left middle of your console. And in addition, we are recording today's event, and we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version so you can view the presentation again later if you choose, or if you'd like to share it with a colleague. Again, today we're going to discuss delivering AI, ML, and BI into new digital transformation use cases. And our first speaker today is James Kabilas, Senior Director of Research for Data Management at TDWI. Jim is a veteran thought leader, industry analyst, consultant, author, and speaker on analytics and data management. And over the past 3 decades, Jim has held analyst positions at Futurum Research, Wikibon, Forrester Research, Current Analysis, and the Burton Group. He also served as Senior Program Director, Product Marketing for Big Data Analytics for IBM, where he was both a subject matter expert and a strategist on thought leadership and content marketing programs targeted at the data science community. At TDWI, Jim focuses on data management, which encompasses database platforms, data governance, data integration, master data management, data ops pipelines, and more. With that, Jim, welcome, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning in a broader strategic business context. The power of AI and ML within digital business strategies, really transforming your business into an all digital operation or a more completely digitally focused operation. Is something that's going on everywhere, all over the world, in businesses of all sizes and of all types and of all vertical industries. And really, business transformation using digital techniques rides on AI and ML. In other words, rides on applications that meet particular specifications. They're automated, they're intelligent, they're adaptive and self-optimizing, and really they're powered by data-driven algorithmic applications. So AI ML is the heart of digital business transformation everywhere. And so what we're talking about is data-driven algorithmic applications of a wide range of types, both for customer-facing, but also for back office and supply chain applications that are automating business operations at every level and increasingly driving competitive advantage. If you have better AI and ML built into your applications, more predictive, more accurate, in a wider range of scenarios where you're both doing automation and automation of processes as well as augmentation of human decisioning, you can go far, and many businesses are going far. So when we look at digital business transformation, AI, machine learning, and other data-driven process and decision logic is in the driver's seat. It's all about making processes and decisioning scenarios far faster, more predictive, intelligent, based on more data being framed in the right context at the right time to drive the right decisions. So when we talk about digital business transformation, we're talking about a capability that's increasingly the core of pretty much every application deployment scenario, whether it be software as a service environments, clouds, private and public clouds, mobile applications, edge and embedded Internet of Things applications. Every application platform now is increasingly powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning. And really it's driving, like I said, process automation, autonomous operations, for example, robotics that can do amazing things with minimal or no human supervision. though there always needs to be some degree of human oversight and control, and there always is, and should be in every business environment. But also AI and ML, pushed to the edge, are the heart of intelligent sensor networks that are driving industrial processes as well as distributed value chains everywhere. And augmented human decisioning, AI and ML, are embedded increasingly within our business intelligence environments and presenting to us the best visualizations, charts, delivering query responses that are far more contextual within the context of what we're trying to do or achieve. Also, things like digital assistants, virtual assistants, voice agents, and so forth that are working on conversational AI are at the heart of digital business transformation. So really, business success now in this 21st century depends on automated and augmented processes that are adaptively optimized through AI and ML. What that requires is fresh data, constantly being fed into machine learning models that are constantly being trained and retrained so that they are as fit for and predictive for their particular tasks as they possibly can be. Those tasks might be recognizing faces, recognizing voices, finding deep patterns within massive complex data sets, and so forth. So really, business success and digital transformation depends on AI and ML and other process logic that is built out in the form of policies and rules and metadata and so forth to drive more intelligent processes throughout the business, to drive automation scenarios of increasing complexity into our workflows, into recommendation engines that are presenting in real time, recommendations to end users, for example, your customer within the app that they download as an interface and really to enable them to consume your products and services more efficiently, but also the recommendation engines that are driving your multi-channel customer agents to help customers at every stage of the game so that your agents and your salespeople and inside sales and marketing and so forth are driven from the best decision logic at every point in time, and that requires AI and ML for both customer-facing channels and back-office channels. So at TDWI Research, we do regular surveys of data management and advanced analytics professionals. And in this year's TDWI Data and Analytics Practitioner Survey, we saw validation of a trend we've been seeing for many years, which is that enterprises are putting AI and ML models to work in their organizations. When we ask practitioners, the survey responds how many models, machine learning models such as predictive analytics and so forth, does their organization currently have in production? The vast majority of respondents have at least one in production machine learning model, and close to half of them have over 6. Really, increasingly, what we're seeing is that there are more in production machine learning models in the average business now than in the past, and the process is ongoing. AI and ML will continue to grow their footprint in enterprise application environments. Another question we asked on that 2022 survey, was how has demand for more analytics such as machine learning or text analytics changed in your organization over the past years? What was clear is that from the results is that the majority say that the footprint for AI ML is growing slightly or greatly, and is expected to do so in the vast majority of the respondents. So really, AI and ML are the workhorse of the most disruptive and most important business applications that are driving digital transformation. So enterprises are relying on data scientists to do the development and the training and deployment of machine learning models, but also increasingly on business analysts and subject matter experts working hand in hand with data scientists and often using data science tools of equivalent power and sophistication to what professional data scientists are using. So in that same survey, we asked practitioners who is building predictive analytics and machine learning models for your organization's applications. More than 50% said it was data scientists, but really the majority said it was data scientists and business analysts who are collaborating in increasingly team-based, what we often call machine learning operations, workflows, or practices. And really, machine learning operations refers to a growing enterprise practice that involves data engineers, data scientists, subject matter experts, business analysts, working together to build and train and deploy and manage the machine learning and AI that powers your business. So in this same survey, we asked how the respondents, does their company have an MLOps team that is working in this capacity, is essentially providing the core team powering the industrialization of AI and ML in business processes. And the majority said that they either have an MLOps team in place already or are planning to do so within the coming year. So we're seeing greater uptake of machine learning operations as a core business process that really is absolutely essential to make these models fit for their intended applications within your digital transformation strategy. And with that, those are my upfront remarks. I'm going to hand it back to Andrew to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Jim. Before I get to our next speaker, just a quick reminder to our audience that if you do have a question, you can please enter it at any time in the Ask a Question window. We will be answering audience questions in the final portion of the program. Our next speaker is Dr. Ravi Shankar Rao Vallabhjasila with Impetus. Dr. Ravi is a Senior Director, Data Science at Impetus Technologies, where he heads the global data science practice team building and delivering innovative AI and ML solutions. He and his team work closely with customers across verticals to turn complex data into actionable insights and knowledgeable to enable data-driven business decisions. He is experienced in the entire data science lifecycle from development to operationalization of robust analytics models as part of data and application modernization. His expertise spans many areas of AI ML across data mining, image analytics, natural language processing, graph analytics, modeling, simulation, and many others. Welcome, Ravi, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Andrew, and really appreciate everyone who's joined this call. And thanks, Jim, for the great introduction, really helpful. So my name is Ravi. I lead the data science practice at Impetus, and really happy to be speaking today on delivering AIML into new digital transformation use cases. So we work with a lot of customers in this space, and I want to take a few minutes to talk about the work we do and also give you a glimpse of what Impetus data science practice does. So we actually have a big team that's globally distributed. We have team working with AWS in many areas, really deep in terms of quantitative strengths. Just like Jim mentioned, the focus is on many of the areas of data science, especially with AWS. We have built a lot of solutions as well as our IP, and especially our skill sets encompass the entire data science lifecycle, all the way from business understanding to building and managing these models. We have a dedicated MLOps team as well, which, as Jim pointed out, is something that's very relevant today. And that's something we're seeing with all our customers, especially across the multiple sectors that we work with. So having said that, let me just give you an idea of what our skills are in terms of the overall capabilities. So we are able to work closely with AWS as been a partner with us for a long time. We've been building solutions for our customers in many areas, which I'll talk about shortly. And especially SageMaker has been really helpful in enabling a lot of those capabilities that we bring to the table, and being able to also utilize many of these cloud native services, AI services on AWS, like you can take extract or recognition and so forth. So in addition to being able to do all of this, we can also deploy and monitor the models in production. So which means we are also able to tackle issues around MLOps and model governance and everything around taking these models to production and ensuring that they are monitored and retrained as and when required. So this is something that's very important for our customers. And to enable all of this, we have a really strong team of AWS certified engineers and with a lot of quantitative skills. So I will take a minute to talk about the work we do with our customers in different domains. So for example, we have actually worked with customers in in many of the verticals. Andrew, I might need some help. It looks like I need to click on this multiple times too. Okay, there you go. So we provide advisory, implementation, and support services for all of our customers in all these domains that you see here, from banking, financial and services and insurance to supply chain, various things that Jim also pointed out. So this is something that's become very relevant. So we have actually delivered very interesting, engagements for our customers, all the way from building solutions to, productionizing them and managing the entire system. And at the same time, also, when our customers do not have the capability to understand the cloud journey, so we actually also have a way to kind of help them figure out their maturity level and also build out the analytics strategy, and also help them kind of build out their AML capabilities on the cloud. So we've done that across many areas. And some examples that you can see here, including fraud and compliance, violation detection, which is something that banking and financial services industry deals with on a day-to-day basis. Of course, all the financial services, for example, our customers that have a lot of credit card holders and so forth. So they are interested in kind of generating personalized offers, and also insurance customers are looking at kind of building out models to predict risk of, for example, property insurance, products and so forth. So there are various things that are involved in all of this. And supply chain and logistics is another area we have really delivered really interesting projects. I'll talk about one use case later when we get to the panel discussion part. And also with communications and media, there's a lot of work in terms of marketing and related, customer journey related aspects. And similarly, and all these areas around healthcare, manufacturing, retail, the government and law enforcement is something that's also something of interest to us, given that Impetus is an umbrella organization. We have various other concerns that we work with inside Impetus. And also we're doing a lot of work in image and video analytics, which also we'll be talking about shortly. So the one area I also want to kind of highlight here is a lot of this work is actually happening on the AWS as a cloud platform. And what we can actually help our customers build out is build an architecture to enable all the machine learning and AI on top of AWS through various components that AWS provides, and also being able to build out the entire data science lifecycle, pieces. And that can be working with the customers to kind of collect the data and build out the initial prototypes for the models. So we utilize SageMaker quite a bit, and also various other services. And now once we have that piece done, we are able to also create user personas on the platform, because it helps kind of figure out who has access to what. So if you think of a large enterprise, now there may be different teams working on different parts of the use case. So different data engineers versus data analysts versus data scientists, they may have different requirements. So all of these things would be relevant. So we can create those user personas, and this whole entire platform can be created with just a few clicks of the mouse. Impetus actually created some very interesting accelerators to help kind of create this whole data platform on the cloud, especially AWS. So we have actually delivered this to a lot of our customers, and we are able to kind of create all the processes from building out the models to managing them and deploying and managing them in production. So all the feature engineering and everything can also be utilized capabilities on AWS itself. And additionally, we can do the model monitoring and retraining the models as and when required. So we can detect drift in the data and kind of do all the processes that are part of this whole like data science lifecycle. And this helps our customers not just tackle the issues that they have data sitting in one location, but also be able to kind of manage the overall use cases in a modernized platform. So that is something that's really been a great thing to talk to our customers. So I want to also next talk about a broader range of capabilities that we bring to the table in terms of expertise, which spans everything which I talked about when I was covering all the verticals. But in a more horizontal sense, a lot of capabilities to bring to table in terms of the text mining, NLP, and the deep learning, and various other things that you see here, including data quality, or could be building out these models on the cloud platforms, even video analytics, voice analytics. We've actually done work even in cybersecurity and AI ops and industrial analytics. So all these things are something that we do on a day-to-day basis with all of our customers, and also in building out our own IP and solutions. So if something catches your eye or you're interested in hearing more, I'll be happy to talk more in detail later. But I just wanted to share this here just to bring out the uniqueness that Impetus brings to the table. So just to give you a glimpse of the work we have done with a lot of our customers, this spans many verticals, like could be oil and gas or energy or healthcare, like you see here, and a lot more. This is just a small sample of them. So a lot of work we've done with our customers in many areas, covering different kinds of data and different kind of business domains. So this is one, and then we also built some solutions, which as I mentioned earlier. So this is an example of some of the solutions we built. And once again, I'll be happy to talk more later. So, but this span things like being able to kind of create use cases for our customers, and be able to kind of deliver solutions as and when required. So some of these examples also include voice analytics, where you can take voice analytics to a database and be able to generate SQL and have it generate the results as you speak to it. So we utilize quite a bit of open source tools and technologies in this process. So could be Python, R, TensorFlow, or also any other BI tools like Power BI and Tableau. So we work with a spectrum of customers so that we can actually deliver all of these solutions. And I think that's all I had from my end. I'll be happy to hand it off to the next speaker, but I'll come back again to talk more during the rest of the event. Thank you once again. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Very good presentation there. Happy to bring on our third speaker today, who is Steve Maloney with AWS. Steve is a senior analytics AI/ML specialist, and for 20 years, his mission has been to be the #1 facilitator of customer value by earning trust and delivering customer results. He is grateful and proud of being selected as Seller of the Year 6 times at AWS Analytics, Salesforce, HLS, IBM Analytics, and Oracle BI Analytics. He prides himself on teamwork, internal and external collaboration, and integrity. He has led data-driven businesses transformations in HLS, technology, manufacturing, M&E, and CPG retail. Please welcome Steve. We're also going to bring Jim back for this as well, and we can begin the panel discussion at this point.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure to have you, Ravi and Steve. So when we're all on screen here, and we're great, cool. We're going to move to the panel portion of today's program. So good presentation, Ravi. I'm going to ask this question to both of you, and either one of you can step in first. What are the core business use cases for artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as business intelligence? What are the core use cases to drive digital transformation? So I'll start with Ravi. Ravi, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Thanks, Jim. So this is a very relevant question. So there are many kinds of use cases we see with our customers. So digital transformation, of course, requires you to be able to bring the data that the customers might have in multiple data stores. Not all of those are accessible. So that challenges for users who want to build use cases to see beyond what their own data sets are telling them. So in order for them to do that, now they need to have access to the enterprise-wide data. One challenge is that the accessibility is limited by either the setup the enterprise has, or that the data sets and the groups are siloed. So moving things to a modern data platform like AWS helps kind of enable a seamless the integration of the data sets and being able to kind of bring these things together. Of course, you are also able to kind of address various other related aspects like data quality and metadata, which can be managed better. Now they become richer and be able to see various things, including data lineages. So if some team is building a use case, they might now find that there's another team within the organization that building something similar. They can collaborate and do things together. So what you're seeing is that many of the use cases will, of course, vary from one customer to another. But in general, all the core functionalities within a large enterprise, take it sales, could be marketing, could be various other analytics. All those things really shine, especially in a digital transformation scenario. And being able to do that, you have to be able to migrate the data and the logic. So now all of these data and logic could be on legacy systems. So the migration is a key problem as part of digital transformation. So we have solutions that enable that. But once you're able to bring all the data to one location, AIML really is a tool you want to kind of interrogate the data. So we actually work on use cases spanning, sales, marketing, recommendations, like all the things that you mentioned early on, as well as things that we see with, for example, customer 360. So one thing that we really found our customers really experience is transformative nature of how users interact with the modern applications once they're able to kind of be using more data than they were trained initially with, so they actually can enhance the experience for users. So customer experience is a big plus that kind of helps. Now, of course, being able to build and monitor these models in production is something that I talked earlier. That's relevant to all these use cases. But by and large, there are a lot of core business use cases that we work with our customers, and AWS is something we leverage on a day-to-day basis. So I'll be happy to talk about more specific use cases as well later, but let me hand it back to you, Jim.
Yes, Steve, what are your thoughts? What are the core business use cases for digital transformation involving AI and machine learning? Is Steve's mic on? Can't hear Steve's voice. Steve, can you turn your mic on, please? We're having some trouble with the audio on Steve's. What we'll do is we'll get back to Steve. Steve, are you on?
Jim, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. So I'll ask again. Steve, what are the core business use cases for artificial intelligence and machine learning for digital transformation? What's most critical in terms of AI, ML to drive digital transformation?
Thank you first, Ravi, for your great comments to take this question first. And Jim, thanks for this. This is really important. And sorry for that lag on my volume or my speaker connection. I think the core business use cases are what drives the core business. What we call at AWS and Amazon working backwards. We're customer obsessed, and what we mean by working backwards is driving outcomes for our customers' customers, meaning what creates their revenue? How do they capture their customers? How do they lose them? Why would they ever attrit? What marketing programs are driving that? What product features are making their customers come back? So I would say in terms of core business cases, in terms of revenue, cost, and risk, and there's a lot in there. Cost, especially with productivity, and it can relate to different industries. Productivity, for example, in a call center. Why are calls taking on average 30 minutes at a healthcare provider? Why does a manufacturing process have a certain quality rate or can't keep up with new functional requests? And we're here with partners like Impetus to figure out what would make an impact to the core business to get people to prioritize AI and ML to operationalize it for everyone instead of having it just be for a small number of users, but to serve the entire business and all stakeholders. We're not that far away from it, and organizations are just starting now to get there.
Great. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. And I'll ask this one. I'll start by asking Ravi to take the lead. What are the principal best practices for data science and advanced analytics to drive digital business transformation? So what are the best practices for data science in this regard, and data scientists and data science teams in the enterprise?
Thank you, Jim. So this is actually a very relevant question today, right? So of course, data science is something that's been around for a long time. People have been looking at data and being able to kind of build out solutions. But data science became really powerful by the value it has actually added to business and enterprises and made them really grow in the last few decades. So this is something that's transformative, and we're seeing this again and again. The best thing to understand is that data science really shines when you apply the best practices, and not just building models, but the entire spectrum, where you're looking at how do you even define a problem to start with. There's a business problem, like Steve mentioned, could be the business outcome risk, could be revenue. So as you're able to kind of hammer out the exact problem and pin it down to specifics, now you're able to kind of answer various questions. So now you can evaluate the existing systems that the customer has, and even figure out an analytic strategy at that point, whether the customer is able to support a AIML driven digital transformation use case, or it's something that only involves simple solutions. So being able to kind of first create the business problem, and then tackling out what needs to be built at that point, building out a solution architecture, being able to even kind of figure out what data is available. So data collection, gathering, all that becomes relevant. So we have teams working on various aspects. We work with internal cloud teams as well as our business analysts to kind of work closely with our customers to define all these solutions. And one other piece to this is, once you have the business use case figured out, now can we create a hypothesis to kind of answer this problem? How do you tackle that process? As part of that, we may collect data samples. We may actually figure out that the data that exists may not be sufficient. We need to go find new data. We work very closely with the business stakeholders. And from that point onwards, we can iteratively create model prototypes. And then once we are satisfied in how those prototypes function, we can scale them out. And each of these processes, there are actually well-defined industry practices, for example, CRISP, DM, and so forth, that we can apply in order to ensure that there is a standardization of the various steps. And once we're able to do that process, we can actually operationalize these models, again, using very, industry best practices in terms of the tooling and also the pipelines that we can build. And AWS is really a well-defined set of these kind of, components in place that we can actually leverage. And this helps us kind of enable us to provide a very efficient way of building out this, and to not just meet the business problem, but also deliver it in the timeline or, whatever budget they might have. So these are various factors as well.
Great. Steve, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Ravi, thank you. I think what he outlined is a sound foundation to get to business transformation. I would add that what we're trying to do at AWS overall is to make it simplified, meaning have the line even blurred between data science and BI, to, for example, have AI and ML actually embedded everywhere. So normal sort of people, non-scientists can understand it and use it. A great example of this is testing forecast accuracy. We now have advanced with something called SageMaker Canvas, which is literally a visual drag and drop that you can use even inside of a spreadsheet to basically test forecast accuracy. And an Excel user, an executive, can understand that. Not only would you be able to add in, say, this test forecast accuracy, it'll give you explainability. This is why your forecast will or is not accurate, and the explanation for why. That is what we need, those type of advances, to get automatic ML, automatic data science for mass consumption out there. And it really can drive and accelerate transformation. Then it becomes something people look at all the time when they're working, whether or not they're a call center agent, a CEO planning and allocating resources, a project manager, whoever. It can serve everyone if it's easily understood and available.
Great. So we'll move on to the next question, and I'll ask Steve this one to start. And Ravi, of course, we would love to hear from you too. What cloud-based artificial intelligence and machine learning platforms, tools, and capabilities should enterprises implement to drive digital transformation? I heard you mention SageMaker Canvas on that response. But in the broader perspective, what is the full stack or set of tools that are needed to drive AI ML into digital transformation scenarios?
Well, I think there's an important DNA, if you will, an important makeup that AWS has that we offer to our customers to speak to getting to success with digital transformation. First, I think reducing timelines and defining why move to cloud. Really, for us, it's about how customers control how fast they want to go. And if they have hard timelines and top-down aggressive goals, we can get a customer running quickly with a partner like Impetus, who we'd look to, who has expertise, for example, in data science, but also in advisory, implementation, and support. But then also someone who designs for that, like we do, for example, and I can speak to our depth because that's what I know and where I serve. But for example, one of the things that we do with our customers is actually build what we call a blueprint, an end-to-end reference architecture to help them adopt define their digital transformation journey. And then that's guided by what we call for the customer, North Star vision, which is basically a clear, concise, long-term goal that provides direction for these investments in your journey for making business decisions. And we design in three tenets, just in summary, of a platform that allows our three design tenets are one, maximizing insights, minimizing technical debt, and creating a modular and future-proof blueprint to operationalize for your business. So all those tools are included, and we'd hope with a partner or directly with us, we could help a customer get started and move as fast as they'd like.
Great. And Ravi, what are your thoughts on this?
Steve really connected to the key points here, Jim. So thank you, Steve. And I think the things I can add here are around, using various tooling that's already on AWS, or in addition, other things outside, for example, open source tools and technologies that we can actually also integrate into this whole process. In fact, doing things on Spark, a lot of our customers are actually working with legacy systems, like take, for example, SaaS, right? So the logic built in there. So once you migrate that data and logic to the cloud, building things out on Spark is something that can be done on AWS, and being able to build those models and productionize them. Various things to add to that, right? So, for example, if somebody is working with a graph problem, you have a tool for that called Neptune on Amazon that you can actually use, and various other things that that we can leverage. So, broadly speaking, I think it's all depends on specifically the right choice of the tool and being able to solve the business problem.
Great. We'll move on. Another very broad question, but I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on it, and I'm sure our audience would. What is the optimal or best or ideal cloud data platform architecture for digital business transformation? When we talk about cloud, we're referring to everything from private to public, hybrid, multi-cloud, mesh, and so forth. Is there an optimal cloud data platform architecture? And if so, what do you think it is? Either of you can start on this one.
I'll comment first. I would certainly say that we would advocate AWS, but the reason why I'd say that is, first, we wouldn't even provide a biased opinion. We'd want to help with that evaluation process by quantifying the business value of AWS. We do that for our customers on an ongoing basis, initially and all the time, and even the TCO of AWS versus running on-premise or even running another cloud, and some of the trade-offs to consider. That's a genuine way to engage, and then consider what would be optimal. And I think this is a good point to talk about the why. I think the how is somewhat easier if the business understands why they're going to go to the cloud, what impacts they may see for revenue, cost, their future North Star type of a business plan. And then we can get into the how and help a customer really methodically think about what is that architecture, how do we deliver it? Hopefully with a partner like an Impetus or one of our other exceptional partners available.
Great. Ravi, your thoughts?
Sure. Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Steve. So we actually are working in this space in the recent time, right? So we are seeing, cloud platform, and we work with all the cloud providers. AWS is our largest partner, but we have experience working with others as well. What we're seeing is, this kind of a platform will help our customers now, number one, address their infrastructure needs and build out the.
Did we lose your audio? Ravi, I can't hear your voice.
Looks like he froze.
Okay. Hopefully he'll come on quickly.
Which is a service and platform as a service. I think something.
We missed about 10, 15 seconds of your audio there, Ravi. Can you repeat? Apologize. And I think he's frozen again. While we're waiting for Ravi, I'm going to move on in the interest of time. What are the key challenges that enterprises face when using AI and machine learning to drive digital transformation in the cloud? Steve, please answer this, and we'll wait for Ravi to return.
Yes, thank you, Jim. I like to call out a AWS blog written by our customer JPMC, which stands for JP Morgan Chase. And I love what they called it. I think it's a great way to describe it. One of the challenges is what they call the data paradox. So they described it as a data paradox, where they said data that is permitted to be freely shareable across the enterprise has potential to add tremendous value for stakeholders. But the more freely shareable the data, the greater possible risk to the organization. So to unlock the value of your data, though, you must solve this paradox. We must make data easy to share across the organization, but while maintaining appropriate control of it. So to solve for this, JPMC is taking a two-pronged approach to address this paradox. Their summary is firstly, by defining data products in a data mesh, which are curated by people who understand the data and its management requirements, permissible uses and limitations. And secondly, by implementing a data mesh architecture, which allows us to align our data technology to those data products. So it certainly takes collaboration amongst stakeholders, the business and IT, and a partnership there. And I think thinking of this data paradox is a good way to kind of call out the challenge and hopefully have a meeting of the minds on how to gain that mass adoption and capture those business value benefits at massive scale, not at a small team level.
Great. Ravi, do we have you back on?
I'm back, Jim. Apologies. I think I'm having a very bad internet day. I don't know why. Some outages.
That stuff happens. So what do you think are the key challenges that enterprises are facing when using AI and ML in their digital transformation cloud strategies? Challenges they face, and how do they overcome them?
Sure, definitely. So this is a very important problem, right? So there's always a issue with trying to figure out the right pathway. And one thing we found as the initial challenge that can be is getting all the stakeholders aligned and being able to kind of work closely before you even choose the technology that you want to bring to the table. How do you align on the business problem? So one challenge we're seeing is how to get organizational support, especially in customers that are still hesitating in adopting all the cloud tools and technologies, and working with them to kind of enable in them to pick the right roadmap for the digital transformation and AIML. So being able to kind of apply all these things, especially we want to apply that to multiple types of data that could be unstructured, because you can choose depending on the type of that data that you have, the architecture that you want to apply. We can do things like image analytics or video or text and various other things, and conversational AI. All these things can leverage, but unless you are aligned with the customer and being able to choose the right tools and technologies, it's a challenge. But also at the same time, another challenge I also want to highlight here is customers also try to decide whether to build or to buy. And kind of addressing that becomes an advisory kind of a aspect where we can actually guide them, and we work with them in kind of educating them on what's the right choice depending on the situation. Also, one of talent and also domain knowledge, because both kind of tying together at this, because they may not have the right talent, in which case we are able to support them to as their needs. And domain knowledge is they bring to the table. At the same time, we can collaborate and work together on taking the right step forward. So kind of training and equipping them on the cloud skills, especially AWS or other cloud, and also hybrid cloud in some cases. It's all a choice. So these are challenges we kind of work with our customers and try to resolve through some workshops and other educational opportunities as well.
Great. In the interest of time, we'll just move on. Another challenge, of course, is benchmarking the performance and accuracy of AI ML models. What are the best practices, and Ravi will stay with you, what are the best practices for benchmarking the performance of AI and ML models for digital transformation?
Yeah, so this in this scenario, so now the systems that the customer might have, they are already having some existing legacy tools and logic that are built in. So one thing we would like to see is at least the models that we create on AWS or elsewhere, we're able to kind of benchmark them at least to the level where they can meet the performance guarantees and SLAs of their current existing setup. So because for that, now we need to replicate the data and the logic on the platform side. So benchmarking is a very important aspect. For that, we need the access to the data as well as whatever those models are trained on. In some cases, there are even rule-based systems that they are using. So being able to bring that over to the a cloud is something that requires a lot of steps in terms of benchmarking each step one at a time, and at the same time being able to kind of match or exceed their performance kind of gives them the guarantee that they can believe in what we are being able to do with the those existing systems. So one example I'll give you is SaaS logic we migrate to AWS, for example, right, on Spark or something of that sort. So we can actually beat the performance that they see on various classification problems and so forth. And this is helping a lot of our customers. And at the same time, other benchmarking also is relevant, even, for example, at the other end of data ingestion, where some of the data ingestion tasks might be failing or halting. So we need to figure out the reasons for that. So we need to compare against other related things where the ingestion doesn't really fail. And the last thing I want to mention here is also, depending on the type of problem, there are some open source benchmarking data sets also we can compare against. For example, are you beating the state of the art in terms of specific image analytics or other specific AIML problems? So those are things we also look at.
Very good. And one last question before we go to audience Q&A. This is for both of you. What are some noteworthy enterprise success stories in the usage of AI and machine learning to deliver a successful business transformation using digital technologies? Steve?
I can post this link, and I'd like to refer everyone to our blog that was written by JP Morgan Chase on how they use AWS to serve all of their internal stakeholders. I think that's an incredible one to highlight. Certainly, if you have AWS contacts within our global team, we have hundreds or tens of thousands or more than that type of references and use cases specifically we can share, either nameless or with customer details on their ROI. But I really like the JP Morgan Chase one because it operationalizes at mass scale. Go ahead.
Yes, Ravi. Did we lose you? Did we lose Ravi? I think Ravi is frozen again. While waiting for Ravi to come back on, I'm going to hand it back to Andrew to start the audience Q&A, and hopefully we'll get Ravi back in a jiffy. Andrew, are you there?
All right. Yeah, I'm here. I'm just getting all prepared here. So, we'll move into the audience Q&A. I was going to ask Ravi a question first, but Steve, I will start with you on this one. This question comes from an audience member. How can we reduce timelines using cloud platforms like AWS?
This is a very important one. I would say there's really a three-part answer that we look to with our customers. First is the customers control how fast they want to go. If they have aggressive top-down goals, hopefully, and some immediate deadlines, we can help them immediately and very fast. We have now over a massive amount of customers, and we can onboard even for large-scale type transformations and migrations quickly. Second, to reduce timelines, this brings up this idea that I mentioned earlier, the North Star vision and defining a end-to-end reference architecture. The blueprint, which is a blueprint, that blueprint should be guided by a clear, concise, long-term goal of how this is going to help your business to improve decision-making. This could be something that may take 3 to 5 years to realize, maybe something futuristic or a vision, but at least it helps you to give an idea of where to start small and how to equate that to thinking big for your long-term vision. And I think third, creating a unified IT and data backbone, I think, is a term I really love about thinking of using data to serve your business, to serve your customers, and what you do for the markets. Create that unified data, IT and data backbone in your blueprint. You need a functional architecture, and we have a lot of services to bring to solve for business outcomes that our customers are looking for with those three tenets that I quickly mentioned earlier, which are how do we maximize insights, how do we minimize technical debt, how do we create a modular future-proof blueprint. I would say engage a partner or us directly to find how quickly we can move you, and we can even help engage your executive teams on what that business value may take, because they may be unaware and that may slow down your transformation journey, and we can help highlight that.
I think Ravi's back on here. So Andrew, you want to ask the next question for Ravi?
Yeah, of course. So Ravi, this will be for you. How can cost aspects be addressed while planning for complex use cases? What factors have to be taken into consideration?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and my apologies, I lost the connectivity again. But definitely a lot of factors that play into the cost equation, right? So depends on what the infrastructure cost and model training costs and inference and so forth. So broadly speaking, it's a question of being able to figure out what are the data volumes and data storage costs. There's also labeling costs involved, especially if it's supervised learning problem, because you need to figure out the time and also the kind of hardware required to do that. So you may want to choose GPUs or CPU-based systems for doing that, and also the inference costs. So in addition to that, you also need to budget for costs around that you need to set up a Lambda or API gateway and so forth. So each of these has costs associated. Do we advise our customers on how to kind of go about choosing the right and optimal steps? So we actually also looking at various things. For example, could be if models need to handle requests in parallel and the latency issues to be resolved. Also, costs of any AI services that they need to leverage could be recognition or could be text act or various other things. So all these things are something that we kind of help our customers address when they're building out these complex use cases. So.
Okay, terrific. I'll actually follow up, and I have one more question for you, Ravi.
Sure.
Can models be refreshed? Can models be refreshed on new data in production, and how is their performance monitored for drift, et cetera?
Yeah, definitely refreshing models in production is something that's relevant, especially in terms of as data keeps new data keeps coming in, new models may drift. So we can actually detect the drift and accordingly take a call on refreshing the models in production. We actually also work with AWS, especially SageMaker models. We can use a SageMaker model monitor itself to continuously monitor those things in production, and accordingly figure out what statistical tests could be used to compare, how much the distribution of the data in production was different from the distribution actually when the model was trained. So at some point you can set a threshold for triggering the model refresh and accordingly drive that process. So there are some statistical tests that we can apply there, Andrew.
Fantastic. Okay, Steve, we'll move over to you for this one. Is it feasible to create suitable access and experience on AWS for different users and personas?
It certainly is. I think the JPMC that I posted inside in the chat here is a great example. But I think it's important, though, that to really think about and focus on first the why. I think that the how maybe is even focused on too much by the industry, from people saying that the answer to this business problem about operationalizing AI and ML is a data cloud, it's a lake house, it's a modern data architecture, which is the evolution from the lake house to go beyond that. Those are certainly enablers, and someone could start small or go big on any of those approaches. But the business problem is, how do we get all this data, all the users access to all data to make the organization more effective, more efficient? And I think technically it's certainly feasible in a number of different ways and approaches, and that can change and evolve over time. But if we think about the why, what it's going to do for the business, and frame that, then we can act fast, and then it can be actually a lot of fun. We've even seen reduced turnovers in certain roles like call center, definitely impacts on revenue and costs. There's just great impacts that come from these benefits at mass scale if the business thinks through why we're doing this, and then we can execute on the how and partner with you directly or work with a group of experts like Impetus.
Okay, terrific. Ravi, we'll move back to you for this question.
Yeah.
Have you worked with any customers from the BFSI domain, and can you brief on most common AI ML use cases in that industry?
Certainly. So we have done a lot of work with BFSI. That is a big area for us. A lot of customers in this space, from banking to financial services like credit card providers and insurance companies. So there are a lot of use cases we work in this space. For example, there could be fraud detection, where we try to flag a fraudulent transaction in as short time as possible, or it could be recommendations for card members based on the purchases that are made. We can recommend other merchants that they can buy things from. So all those recommendations can also be personalized. Of course, I spoken earlier on using anomaly detection for data ingestion, because this is something the market generates a lot of new data, and that data has to be ingested by especially banking and financial customers to kind of, iterate their offerings. So kind of detecting if there's ingestion jobs that are stopped using anomaly detection techniques is something we do. Sales digitalization is another big use case where we really helped large customers in kind of digitizing their whole sales operations, kind of enhance their whole connectivity with their, between sales agents and the prospects, and increase the prospect conversion, and also figure out things like next best action and planning out their calendars so that they are able to be more effective, and also coaching new salespeople using AIML, helping them to learn from the more experienced salespeople, and also additional things around data quality, metadata quality improvement, using NLP for enabling contextual search, OCR. There are a lot of things, including cybersecurity, also AI ops around kind of incident management, kind of flagging things when application might go down, and also building explainability into all of this is something we look at. So it's a broad spectrum of use cases, and so really happy to talk about more on that if needed.
Yeah, we actually did get one question, I think, that is a nice follow-up here for you, Ravi, from an audience member. Have you done any use case implementation in real estate construction management? What are your recommendations?
We have done use cases around construction management in oil and gas, right? So slightly different, but there are a lot of things related that are very similar. So we can actually take pictures of the construction area and kind of detect various objects using image analytics really, and kind of figure out what entities are there. And also with image and video analytics, we can actually figure out where things are moving. So we can actually look at that. And additionally, with oil and gas, there are things called P&ID diagrams, where it's a whole layout of the oil and gas field. So especially process industry, there are pipelines, there are instruments. So similarly, in the real estate construction management, you have things that are there's a workflow of events happening. So a lot of things we can actually bring to the table from that domain to this use case. But I see a lot of parallels in terms of being able to detect and enable search and do things around, flagging any violations and so forth. And a lot of things around also, rail safety that we have done, which is also helpful in kind of detecting safety issues. We'll be happy to talk more on this.
Fantastic. I think we have time for one final question. I think we'll start with Steve here, but Ravi would love to hear your thoughts as well. Where should an organization start with AI and ML if no use case exists, or should they start if no use case exists?
I think we should meet about no use case existing or where to start. Every organization faces challenges, whether or not it's hiring, revenue, cost, risk. Either potentially their product or service may be fairly commoditized and improving a margin. I think it's our jobs to serve our customers with our partners too, and try to find ways to maybe meaningful them to think about using AI ML for what. And that would be different in the construction business than it would be in CPG than it would be in retail. But with the great thing about having many thousands of customers globally in every single industry, it's our job to facilitate what would be a business value, and let's get started or evaluate that. And our partners are very important to that too. And we welcome those discussions and hope we can have them with everyone on this call, even if we're doing something with you now, even, for example, developing a long-term roadmap. What should we focus on now? What's a high-value quick win? Where could we go when and for what? And it's our job to help facilitate that, and we're here to serve.
And let me push back, and this is Jim, against the notion that there can be no use case. There's always a use case in every business for better decisions, to drive better outcomes based on better data. And so when you unpeel the onion of AI and ML, that's what it's all about. There are always actual or potential use cases in every business. A bit of imagination, a bit of strategic vision is required to identify the use cases for your particular business situation.
And I'll add to that, Jim. So we worked with a customer that, in fact, was facing this exact scenario. And this was in the security analytics domain. They were actually using Tableau for a lot of their slicing and dicing the data, and also looking at what threats to kind of identify. So they didn't have a specific AML use case, but then we were able to kind of point out them, various scenarios that can be used with AML and take that to AWS. We actually recommended a roadmap, including data lake on AWS. So it's exactly what you have said. There's always a use case that we can identify.
Okay, terrific. Well, that brings us to the end of our time today. So let me thank all of our speakers. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Ravi. Also, let me thank Impetus for sponsoring today's webinar. And please remember that we did record today's webinar, and we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version of the presentation, which you can feel free to share with colleagues. Also, don't forget that if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, you can use the click here for a PDF line. Finally, I would like to remind you that TDWI offers a wealth of information, including the latest research, reports, and webinars about BI, data warehousing, and a host of related topics. So I hope that you tap into that expertise at tdwi.org. And lastly, from all of us here, let me say thank you very much for attending. This does conclude today's event.